Hi guys, welcome back to MMA UK. I'm Jared Miller, and it's a pleasure to be joined today by Cage Warriors Flyweight champion Superman Shaj Haque. Shaj, how are we today, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm perfect. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. And obviously, the main reason we're talking today is looking forward to your title defense next month. How's training been going at the minute, and how do you feel you're coming along personally?
I think it's been going great. I'm actually feeling better than I did in my last camp. So everything's been going pretty perfect. Obviously, this is just pretty much the start of the camp now. But I train all year round, so I keep myself fit. And just kind of measuring my progress with my conditioning, with just my training. I feel like I'm a better fighter already, and I'm excited to see how much better I'll be on the day of the fight.
Exactly. And you're taking on Michele Martignoni at Cage Warriors 158, July 28th, 29th, I think it is. How do you see him as an opponent coming into the fight?
I don't see him as anything that I haven't dealt with. I think he's just he's a good fighter. Everybody at this level is a good fighter. But I feel like it's just that he's just pretty good. He's got skills in each area. He's not a specialist at anything. I think he's a bit wild. He's just kind of. I feel like the main strength he's got is that he's got a lot of heart. And that's what won him his last fight. But I think I have more heart than anybody. And I don't think his conditioning is going to carry down to the flyweight division. I think he's going to lose a lot of his strengths when he cuts that weight. So I think he's going to get a shock when he realizes he's going to cut weight and he's going to be the weaker fighter in there.
Yeah. And obviously, you haven't lost since 2020. He hasn't lost since taking on Nathan Fletcher in 2021. How do you think, or do you think that changes either of your mindsets coming into the fight, or do you think it has no effect at all?
No, I don't think that's gonna play a part. I've found since like about 2021 I think, or 2020, when I've since my five fight win streak, I've had a totally different mindset in my approach to training. And I just feel like I'm stronger mentally than any of these guys now. I think I want it a lot more. And I think I'm a lot smarter at this point in my career. And I know I've been through. I feel like where he is in his career, I've been through that, where you're climbing up and everybody's kind of behind you. But I feel like I'm at a better point in my career now. I feel like I'm at my peak. I feel like I'm at my prime. He's gonna be facing the best Shaj Haque. And I don't think he's ready for it. I think he's gonna be watching my tape and he's gonna be thinking, all right, he does this, that, and the other. But the problem he's going to find is that there's nobody in his gym that can quite replicate what I do. Even my own guys struggle to replicate myself. So I think he's going to have a hard time trying to prepare for me. And like I say, I think he's going to think he's cutting down weight, so he's going to be bigger and stronger. But he's not going to have that. I think people underestimate my strength until they get in there and they realize I'm not weaker than them and I'm a lot faster than them.
And talking of preparation as well, obviously you're going to be fighting in his back garden in Rome. How do you see that atmosphere for an away fighter like yourself?
Yeah, I think that's his biggest strength, really. I think it's him fighting on home turf. I watched his last fight with Dominic Wooding, and he was losing the fight until the crowd was behind him, and then he got like a second wind. Dominic Wooding started gassing, and I feel like the crowd carried him on for the following three rounds. And he had a lot of heart. He pushed through. I feel like that is his advantage. It's him fighting in home territory. But I'm experienced now. I've fought abroad many times, and it's actually quite exciting for me. I quite like visiting new places. I've never been to Rome, so I'm quite excited to see Rome as well. So to me, it's a positive. I love traveling and fighting. That's one of the best things about fighting. I feel like I've seen a lot of the world through it. So I'm pretty excited to see Rome. I'm sure the crowd will be a little bit hostile because they seem very loud, and with him being the home guy and their guy. They're going to be pretty disappointed, but I think it's going to play pressure on him. I think Dominic Wooding is the type of fighter that deteriorates, and the crowd is able to push him through. But I'm the guy. I'm the type of fighter that progresses as the fight goes on. He's going to be the one deteriorating. So I think I don't think the crowd's going to play in his favor. I think it's going to become pressure instead of strength. When you're fighting someone like me, I've fought in many people's back gardens, and I usually come on top.
Mm. And we've got to talk about your title clinch performance on New Year's Eve. Have you, since winning the bout, have you seen a change in mindset for yourself, both in camp and just in general, or is it just the same as it was before?
No, I think I'm quite level-headed. I know I know I got knocked out of the year in Cage Warriors with that punch. But I'm real with myself. Yes, it's definitely given me some confidence. Definitely, I've been enjoying the moment. I've definitely took that time to enjoy that moment. I've learned that as well. I try not to just let things go. I try to enjoy the time rather than like focus too much all the time. But I talk with my coaches, and I know I watched that fight back, and there was areas in that fight where I didn't perform too well, and there was areas that I did. I always watch my strengths and weaknesses, and I fix those things. So yes, I definitely feel good since that performance. I do feel like and just my gym itself and all the atmosphere around me. Everyone's buzzing at the moment. My amateur fighters are doing really well. So I think everything's really good in the gym at the moment since that last win. So we're flying at ACE MMA at the moment.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, you beat Sam Creasy via round 3 finish. Can you describe or can you put into words the emotions you felt following that stoppage that night?
Yeah, it was years of emotion kind of crashing down on me in one go. I've been working for this for a long time. I feel like I should have had that title shot way back in, I think it was like 2014 or 15 or something. And I feel like I was denied it for unjust reasons. And so it was very frustrating. Obviously, I have a love-hate relationship with Cage Warriors. I love fighting on Cage Warriors, but I was still bitter that they made me work harder than anybody else for that world title. So I think it was just years of that coming together. Like Sam Creasy, that was his like 3rd or 4th title fight when I had beat him years before. And it was just like a lot of frustration and just I wanted to be that world champ. I wanted to get to the UFC, and it kept getting held back for me. I kept feeling like I had to do it the hardest way around. And that's kind of what I just did. I remember since I lost to Jake Hadley, I was like, you know what it is? I'm just going to fight each fight as it comes. I'm just going to give it everything in every single fight, every time. And that's what I've been doing. And when I got that world title shot, that was obviously all that work kind of came together, and I was like, this is my moment. That was one of the things. A lot of people asking me. I was talking to myself in the cage because I did it for the whole camp. I was like, this is my moment. I was like, I'm going to get this moment this time. I've been waiting for it for a very long time, and I'm not going to let it slip. And I was staying focused in there. I was talking to myself to keep myself like alert in that moment. I was like, I'm not going to have one of those days where you go in the cage and you're like, oh, I had a bad day in the office. I was like, it's not going to happen. This time, no matter how I'm feeling, I'm going to win that belt. And all that was in my head. And obviously, it was a tough fight. It was, and then when I remember when he dropped me, I got frustrated. I was like, he didn't just do that. Because I felt like I was winning. I felt like I was in control. And I was like, but it was kind of a slip because I wasn't really rocked. Like he did land, so it is a knockdown technically. But it was more of a knockdown with my foot and just slipped off. And the cage was a bit slippier than anticipated. And then I got up and I was like, I've got to give him something back. And then I started, if you watch it closely, you can see me like loading, like after I clinched with him, I disengaged and I started loading my right leg and my right hand. I was like, I'm going to have to hit him with this punch. And I mean, I wasn't sure I was going to clean him out the way it did, but I knew I was going to hurt him with it. I was like committed. I was like, I will hurt him with this punch. I felt like I threw it earlier in the fight. I had a bit of timing on it. And then obviously everyone knows what happened when I did fire it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I actually watched that fight back before this interview, and I can see your face change after he drops. Your demeanor change when it. And I was wondering, as you previously mentioned, you took him on before back in 2016. Did you see a change in well, not talent wise, but did you see a change in game plan? Did you see a change in his performance levels, or was it the same?
Definitely. I noticed he was you can tell because in 2016 or 2015 when I fought him, yeah. 2016, yeah, when I fought him, I put a lot of pressure on him and he gassed out. He tried to give it back. This time I can see he was a lot more smarter and trying to be more conservative. Obviously, he knew it was 5 rounds. So when I was trying to exchange, he was going on his back foot a lot and trying to counter punch me a lot. He was trying to set up little traps. And it was tricky. It was a little bit different. I kind of anticipated he would do that because I spoke to my coach. I was like, the only way he's going to beat me is if he does that. And he does it really well. So I kind of prepared for that. I knew that if he can get his counter punching going, he's going to be a bit more awkward to hit. So I just kept trying to put pressure back on him. Whenever he put pressure on me, I kept putting pressure back on him. And knowing that he'll slow down, he'll make mistakes before I do. I was quite ready for that. But yeah, he was definitely a different fighter when I fought him then. But I was also a different fighter. You can see I was hitting harder in that fight. So I don't know if he was ready for me to be as different as I was.
Yeah. And what can you take from that fight? What have you learned from that fight that you can then take into this next title defense?
Well, one thing is I definitely know I do have knockout power now, and I think that's something that Michelle's going to have to be wary of. And everyone knows that I use my lead hand well, but people don't expect that I've got the power on my right hand as well. He's gonna have to come prepared for both sides, and obviously all my movement patterns and everything. So I think I'm ready for pretty much anything he's gonna give. I feel like, I mean, I've watched his fights. I think he's just kind of okay everywhere. He's obviously a tough guy. He's gonna be a bit bigger than me. I think he's just going to come with that type of stuff. It's one of those fights where I feel like I'm going to have to lose it. He's quite scrappy. He's quite. I wouldn't say he's very technical, but he's got like decent strikes that he throws, a few that he can, like, that are a little bit dangerous. But I just don't feel like he's as accomplished of a fighter as I am, and even just guys that I've fought before. But like I said, the main thing is going to be, he's going to be fighting his hometown. He's going to be very motivated. I understand what it's like fighting someone very motivated because I've been there before as well. But I'm kind of ready for that. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything he can bring that I'm not going to be ready for.
Yeah, and as you've kind of previously touched upon, coming into that fight against Sam Creasy, you'd been out of the Cage Warriors roster for a tiny bit of time. You'd been in the Almighty and Ape and fighting in Aries as well. How did that return for the title bout come about? Was there certain conversations had, or was it just, it's free, it's time to fight for it?
Well, yeah. So since I stopped threatening Cage Warriors after that loss with Hadley, I went right back to the drawing board with everything. I had a lot of things change in my life, because I had a little one as well, so I was adapting to being a dad. That's what I was saying this fight. It was dad strength. That's why I shouted after the cage, because I felt like when I fought Hadley, I just became a father, and I felt like I was still adjusting to that life. And it was very hard for me, and it was obviously lockdown and everything. So that camp was very all over the place. So I felt like I fixed my life, and then I made that being a father into a strength. And then I was and I really took on board my coaching role. I had loads of I've got really talented fighters coming through, like Sammy, Aaron, Shawan. We've got Marcus and things like that, and the amateur lads, and they're all champions now as well. So I thought I'm going to really focus on my team, and then that's kind of what I started with. I started focusing on them, building my team, and that also allowed me to kind of build myself as well. And before I knew it, the guys that I've been training, I put loads of effort into them, that they started to become my best training partners.
Yeah.
And these guys were then starting to push me. And it came to the point where I was like, if I don't step up myself, these guys, my own students, are going to start overtaking me soon. Yeah. So it kind of went really nicely. Everything kind of fell into place like that. Now our team's doing really well. Now I feel like I'm never short of training partners, and I've got loads of guys who have my back. And I just feel so much more confident when I'm training for things. I also cross train with some of the best guys in the Northeast as well. So lots of things changed after that. And then once I was just I wasn't even thinking of the world title. I just knew that if I go in there and perform my best, that's the opportunities will come. I kind of stopped chasing the goal. I know even now I'm still looking to go to the UFC. I still want that. But I've realized, the fighting career is short. If I just keep chasing something and it never comes or whatever, you just miss all the experience. So I try to enjoy every training camp, even though it's hard. I try to enjoy the grind. I reminded myself why I started martial arts, and it's because you enjoy the training. And the minute you get too focused on, it's a long camp, it's this camp, it's that camp, you start just focusing on the fight and the result, and you forget to enjoy the training. And I want to be able to look back on my camps and remember them. You have some good moments in camps with your training partners as well. So I kind of changed all that, and I just started fighting. And then once I won the Almighty belt, and I think I called out Sam Creasy on one of the little interviews on that. I was like, look, he's got the belt, and I've beat him. I was like, the Almighty champ's better than the Cage Warriors champ. I started calling him out. But it was just all fun. Like I said, I don't have anything against Sam Creasy. He's a nice guy. And then I just kept fighting. I defended the Almighty belt. And then the next thing, I think Aries approached me, and they offered me Samir, who had knocked out Sam Creasy. And I was like, yes, please. So I took that one on. I just thought it was really nice fighting in France. They were a great promotion. I really enjoyed fighting on them. And then obviously beating Samir, that again, I think it just solidified me as the best flyweight in Europe outside the UFC. And I don't think Cage Warriors had a choice really but to give me that shot, because if they didn't give me that shot, the best flyweight in Europe was fighting another promotion. So they gave me that shot, and I took it.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned there, you had a child. So I didn't know, have you had a boy or a girl?
Yeah, little boy.
Little boy. So we see a lot of fighters talk about it, but how does your having a child, does it spur you on? Does it give you something else to fight for?
Yeah, well, that's what it is. That's why I call it dad strength. I know it's just a little bit of a joke, but what it is, I realized all this time, like when I started fighting, you know, like I'd say after Sam, like I beat Sam Creasy, and then I had a few losses after as well. I just started kind of losing the reason I was fighting for, and what, you know, I just kind of just I was saying what I was saying there. I was just fighting for results and things, and I felt like I lost motivation in the training. And after having the little one, and then the worst thing was obviously I had the little one, and then I got knocked out for the first time in my career. That was a big low for me in my career. I was thinking, am I done? Is it like am I too old, or is it because I'm a dad now? Am I just too busy? I'm a coach. Is it too much? I was actually thinking of retiring. I was thinking that by that point, and then I had a talk with my coaches. And they kind of were like, you know, it'd be a shame if you let it go. You were beating someone like Jake Hadley before you got knocked out, and that was one of the worst camps I've ever had. And to fight a guy of that level and to perform still good up till I got knocked out, and they were like, you should definitely go for it again. You'll regret it if you don't. Yeah. And they kind of gave me that push to kind of come back. And then I thought, yes. And then I've got a little one. I was like, I don't want him to kind of think that he was born and then, you know, dad quit because of him. So it kind of just gave me that push. And I thought, no, I can still do it. And then I spoke to my wife. We'll figure out how we'll manage the baby as well when I'm in camp and things. I had just really good supporting around me. And you know, she's been fantastic. You know, like when I haven't been around as much. And then my team as well, the teams that I was training, they started helping me kind of help run some of the parts of the gym that, you know, with the beginners and things, so I can focus a bit more on training, and everything just fell into place. And then that just gave me a real drive, and I just want to, and I feel like with being a father, it always just makes you want to kind of, you know, be a good role model, and to kind of every time, like when I won that world title, I was like, you know, I want to be a world champion for my son. He wants to be able to say his dad's a world champ. You know, I want him to be able to say his dad did this, so that it also inspires him to believe that he can achieve the highest level. So I feel like however far I go, it'll give him that inspiration to see that he can be just as much or even better.
Yeah. Well, no matter the results, mate, don't worry. You are an inspiration to your kid. Don't worry about the results in that sense. And talking of your career, looking back on it, I don't know if you realised, but you made your Cage Warriors debut in March 2013, so over a decade ago now. How looking back over your career, how do you see your journey through mixed martial arts, the professional side of it, and working with promotions like Cage Warriors?
Oh, it's been great. When I really look back on my career, you know, I mean, I think I kind of jumped the gun a bit quick. I had like, what was it? I think it was my second fight was on Cage Warriors. So I think I just made my debut, and then there was like a short notice offer, and it was actually a featherweight, right? And I took, and back then obviously opportunities were small. You know, you didn't always get the opportunity. So the minute like Cage Warriors were looking for someone, I was just like, I'll take it. I just wanted to just jump in there, just challenge myself. And I went in and I won. And then I got my then I fought, I think it was Chris Edwards, who was like killing people back then, and I took that fight in like short notice, and I managed to win that fight. So I kind of just like chucked myself right in the top 10 straight away in my career. So I didn't have any of those padded records. You see a lot of guys, you know, they pad their pro records, so they get a few knockouts and wins. It's also one of the reasons I feel like maybe I had a lot of decisions in my record, because I kept fighting guys that were like much more experienced than me. So although I was winning, it was very like, you know, tough, grinded out fights. But I don't regret it. I feel like first I was thinking, should I have had a few more like, you know, like build up fights to like, so when I get up there I can get like, you know, better performances. But no, I think it built me the way I am. I had them tough fights, and now I feel like that's why I feel like I can perform so well now. I've had all the hard, like I feel like I've had harder fights earlier in my career than I'm having now. I just feel like now I'm able to perform even better. So I think overall, and yeah, I was saying about the promotions I fought in, like loads of the biggest promotions. I fought Cage Warriors, Bama, Fight Nights Global. I've even flew over for the tough interviews. They flew me over for the Ultimate Fighter interviews for the Ultimate Fighter 24. Unfortunately, I didn't get in, but I was shortlisted in the last like 30 or 40 they have. So I've had a pretty exciting career in that way. I feel like I've had a lot of experiences, and that's what I try to share to my students when I'm like coaching. I feel like I try to make them not make the same mistakes I made, and also like remind them, like, you know, not to waste their career, because you're only young once. I feel like there's certain things like when I was younger, I wish I had this mindset that I've got now. I wish I had that 5-6 years ago, and I feel like I would have been a different person.
Yeah, and talking to your students, I'm going to ask you about ACE MMA as a gym. How do you see the coaching levels, and how important have they been for you as a fighter throughout your career? And also, what is the atmosphere like, you know, on a daily basis at the gym?
Yeah, ACE MMA is brilliant. You need to come down and maybe see it one time. We just we're very like we're quite laid back. Everybody's really soundly. We have beginners training with pros and everything. We don't we don't separate them too much in that way. All the guys just help each other out. It's like almost like a motto or ethos that I have. It's what I did with the teens. I was like, I will help them out. I'll give you all my time I can, but and I want you guys to help the next guy. And that's the kind of mindset that we have. So that each guy wants to help the other guy become better than them, and that makes them want to be better than the other guy. And it's just like an atmosphere that I've created in there. So I was like, everyone's competitive with each other to try to be the best in the gym, but they're trying to help the other guy become better. If that makes sense. And it's just a mindset that I've built in there, and that's also made me have to push myself as well, because I'm making these guys as best as I can, but then all of a sudden they're winning rounds against me in the gym and things. So then I'm having to step it up. They're taking me down sometimes. I'm like, okay, right, I'm gonna have to step this up. So it's just a really good atmosphere in the gym. And I feel like we're creating an atmosphere that's breeding champions, and you're starting to see it. We've just had Aaron as well win on GTFP lightweight. We've got Shawan fighting for another title again. I think this will be his third one. We've got Sammy just about to defend it. We're just constantly, it's almost become the norm to be training for 5-round fights in the gym now. Yeah. Literally all the time. It's like last year, I think we had 7 or 8 title fights. Wow. Just constant like amateur and pro ones. Myself fighting, obviously, I think I had 3. And then the amateurs had like 5 or 6. We're just constantly getting ready for 5-round fights. So it's just rammed all the time, trying to get the rounds and stuff in. But everyone just helps each other out. Even the total like beginners, or the guys that are like debuts, they jumping in, helping out, and everybody just kind of helps each other out. And we just have a really good system going.
That sounds amazing. And finally, Matt, I don't want to take too much of your time today, but what we ask of everybody on the show is, how do you see the near future for yourself, and how do you see then your overall future as well? So you've got any near future goals, and then what do you think the whole future looks like for yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting because I used to spend a lot of time trying to see, the future, but now I feel like I try to stay in the moment a little bit more, and take like each fight as it comes, and just each experience as it comes. But I think I'm like my vision is still, I still see myself getting to the UFC. I feel like I can be the first Bangladeshi athlete in the UFC, and I hope I can pull that off. But if it doesn't happen, I know I've done well, and I feel like if I don't get there, one of my students will. So I definitely feel that with just the team and myself, I feel like wherever I get to, I feel like one of my students are going to get further than that. And that's the kind of way I like to kind of like coach as well. Always trying to get them to push, like to go further than I can. So I do see, I'm not sure exactly where we'll be, but I feel in a few years' time, a lot more people are going to know ACE MMA. And once these guys go pro, I feel like these guys are amateur champions now. They're going to become pro champions, and I definitely see a few world champions from my team.
Perfect, mate. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for taking some out of your day again.
Also, if you don't mind, I'd just like to give a shout out to my sponsors for this camp as well. If you don't mind, these guys, because people don't understand how tough it is to do some of these fight camps. Like I was saying before about even just like having a kid. And this time around, I take a lot of time off work when I'm getting ready for fights, and I think a lot of guys do too. And I've managed to get a few good sponsors. I've got N&R Joinery who sponsor me. I've got Fullwell Property Services who sponsor me. Also, I've got don't want to forget anybody. I've just got Northeast Ear Clinic as well. They've sponsored me. And also Hard Life. I've got the hoodie on here now as well. He sponsors me, and also a really big sponsor this time, Spice Lounge in Durham. If you're ever around there, definitely go there for a curry. They're one of the best restaurants, award-winning restaurant, and I just feel like they've sponsored me a large amount of money that's covered all the costs of my the flights for my extra corner man to travel down, because people don't understand how much difference it makes having the right people in your corner, and they don't cover all the costs. So these guys have helped me cover all the expenses, and I really appreciate that.